Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence.
One take. We got this.
Yeah, why not, man?
I'm just going to stitch them all together anyway and make it seem like it's one take. That's fine.
It's entirely up to you, like how much work you want to do later, really.
It is really only up to me.
It is really, like the final decision. Like I would appreciate, some input.
No, you don't. Every time I ask your opinion about something, you're like, I don't fucking care.
No. There have been times, for sure, when I've been
have had input. The reason that our background music on our trailer is from the scene in A Clockwork Orange when Alex beats up all of his droogs. When aren't you? The reason that's that background music, you insisted. But I do want to talk about this just as a small thing.
I think it's good background music. Why don't we talk about what a good choice it was for me to suggest that? Why don't you give me a little praise? Why don't you give me the praise that was denied from me from not having a father? Yeah.
Look, we can play catch later if you really want. Don't actually open. It was a gift.
Dibs on catching.
That, but you don't need to. You don't need to open the mezcal.
Right, I'm not opening the mezcal.
You don't need to open the mezcal. Anyway. I do want to talk about this a little bit, actually. So how were you informed that there was going to be alcoholic Mountain Dew? How did you come into contact with the can?
There's a corner store at my house, and they told me that they were going to have them as a promo thing, and I was like, sick, I'm going to acquire this Mountain Dew.
You did inquire it, and let me tell you.
Acquire. Acquire, Jordan.
Okay, well, let me tell you. I got suited
Inquire is like asking a question.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Did I say?
You said
acquire.
I said acquire. You said inquire.
Let me inquire you about how you felt about it.
It was not good.
Yeah, that was kind of...
It was not good. Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. Here's a review of the alcoholic Mountain Dew no one asked for. It's not good.
Look, it tastes like it's been in the back of the fridge for a while. Not to say like it tasted bad, but it has that kind of frostbit taste to it. Yet it was still fizzy. Mm-hmm. And I like the way that you told it to me. They should have just went for it if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah.
5% on
your
that
market
was,
with alcoholic Mountain Dew should be like, we want to make MD 2020 for gamers.
Yeah.
Not we want to make Mountain Dew for people who like White Claw.
Yeah, and that's
which
really,
is what they did.
Yeah,
and it's just the worst, man.
Look, you put a 9%, 10% on that, it's sold.
It tastes like...
But...
Okay, so, the Brass Monkey... Mm-hmm. Of course, everyone knows the Brass Monkey.
Had it, but
so what if instead of a 40 ounce, there was just a can of White Claw, and you drank the White Claw halfway, and then instead of the orange juice, you added Mountain Dew? That's what that tastes like.
It just...
Flat Mountain Dew.
I wasn't underwhelmed or overwhelmed, just whelmed, really. Yeah. It was whelming.
Yeah, I mean, just to say that I lived to a time where I got to taste the alcoholic Mountain Dew, what an achievement.
They may not go forward with it. Like, that's the thing. Like, it could have just been a one-and-done thing where everyone's response was... I really feel like you should have full sent it and you didn't. Yeah. And then they just decide not to.
I really feel like you should have just thrown a shot of vodka in each can of Mountain Dew and called it good. And that would have been fine.
That would have actually, sold.
If you would have made like
it's a simple process and they just decided not to go for it.
If you would have gone the cocktail route instead of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've had the cocktails in the cans. They're not good, but they do the job, and that's the point.
It can't decide what it's doing. It's like...
It did taste like Mountain Dew. It just tasted like off Mountain Dew.
Like,
somebody
honestly,
found a recipe online.
I think we already kind of have like what we need from that. Like a neon green thing that gets you drunk. You know what that is? That's a pickleback.
Yeah.
We already have it.
That's true.
Go with that if you want to get that fixed. Trust me.
I might get the pickleback rather than that.
How was the Monster Energy alcohol?
Fine. It actually just tasted like a Monster. And
ew, that's not fine.
Well, okay, fair, but I mean.
What was the
you didn't try it?
No. I got you one. I only secured one.
It tasted like a Monster, and it was 6%, so already better than the Mountain Dew by 1%.
Well, it's already better than Monster by at least having some alcohol.
Exactly. There's a reason to drink it. I will tell you though. So drinking a 6% beer does nothing.
I want to have shaky hands and shit my pants. Except for an energy drink.
Well, drinking a 6% beer does nothing for you and me, really. But I will say the amount of caffeine that was in it to where it felt like I got a good buzz. That was worth it.
I thought it was illegal for them to put caffeine in them.
It's still an energy drink. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Well, they have something else. It can't be caffeine.
Well, yeah. It's got they're just a little cocaine.
Wait, not true. There's another little peach tea The peach tea Portland cider things definitely have caffeine. They have like the same amount of caffeine as like a cup of tea.
You can get Jack and Coke in a can. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, well, I just wanted to throw that out there. Watch out for it. I'll say that. You're going to drink it and it comes out code red, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, nothing good.
Yeah, nothing good to say about it. It was actually larger than just a pint, too, or a tall boy. It was like, I have to go through more of this for less intake. It just...
Yeah.
Anyway, look, hey, to segue into our subject, it has nothing to do with that, but I will let you know. Okay, I will let you know. I did contact the FBI offices in Portland for this. It didn't actually get me anywhere.
Why?
Because
I guess you're going to tell me.
Well, so as it turns out, we have research into some of our more modern authors who were problematic sometimes. They would say some things, and the FBI would start to investigate them, and they would have a file on them. For instance, Ernest Hemingway definitely had an FBI presence within their offices. You know, like there were a lot of files on Ernest Hemingway. You could probably find a book all about that, just on that subject alone. But when I called up the offices, I was like, hey, I'm looking to get files on a couple of people. Like, they're dead, they're long ago, they're famous people. Can I get that? And the guy was like, yeah, you're calling the wrong FBI offices. He was like, this is usually the line for, like, you know, crazy people who are like, hey, I saw some Antifa guys that they said that they were going to, you know, blow up a bus or something, you know, and it's like, no, not that. He told me to contact the offices in California, and I tried sending an email. It didn't get me anywhere, but hey, I tried, you know. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we?
You just made some awkward calls.
I am technically in their files now, yeah, you know.
You just made some awkward fucking calls, and you felt the need to mention that to me right now.
Yeah, because it's a segue.
Okay, well.
Philip Kindred Dick was born December 16th,
Don't
1928.
hide it. Just say Philip K. Dick.
Well, I'm telling you what his middle name is, though. It's Kindred.
Okay.
You're welcome. He was born December 16th, 1928, in Chicago, Illinois, to his parents Dorothy and Joseph.
Oh shit, we're not doing the whole family lineage. This is fucking amazing, dude.
There was nothing important.
Is that why you said there's like less pages in this fucking episode? Because half of it isn't just like announcing the past 8 generations before him.
Hey, I looked.
Fucking goddamn. I feel so relaxed already, dude.
They can't all be Jane Austen, you know?
Fuck.
He was born premature by 6 weeks with a twin sister named Jane, who unfortunately passed away an additional 6 weeks later on January 26, 1929. His parents buried Jane in a Fort Morgan, Colorado cemetery on a double plot, with Philip's name and birth etched into the tombstone for him to be buried alongside her when the time came.
Which is either like your parents don't think you're going to make it to adulthood to get married.
Kind of feels that way.
Or just don't think you're going to get married.
I mean, honestly, what a thing to have looming over you anyway. Like, other kids at school, like, I got a sweet new mountain bike. I have a tombstone. Bought and paid.
I have a super nice plot next to my super dead sister.
Well, it's weird, too, that they decided to do it in Colorado and they're from Illinois. But whatever. And no one wants to visit. Anyway.
Okay, so they have money.
Yeah, actually, a bit. Philip's father, Joseph, worked for the Department of Agriculture, which forced the family to move often. When they eventually moved to the Bay Area of California, it seems that Phil's mom, Dorothy, was quite taken to it. Because when Philip was 5 and his father had to relocate the family yet again, this time to Reno, Nevada, Dorothy refused to go. Their impasse led to a divorce where both parents fought for Philip's custody, which was eventually awarded to his mother. However, as much as Dorothy seemed to love the West Coast...
How old is Mr. Dick at this point?
The older Dick?
Youngest Dick.
Oh, he's 5.
Dick Jr.
The small Dick is 5.
Small Dick is 5.
We're not going to get tired of that joke at all.
Nope.
So as much as his mom, though, like, was fighting for it because she said that she loved the West Coast, she actually, after the divorce, she quickly moved herself and her son to Washington, D.C. From grades 2 through 4... Philip attended Quaker schools, where he was a star student, though he would ironically get his lowest grades in written composition. He was C average when it came to that, partly because of his inability to write the quote-unquote correct way, as in he couldn't tell a linear story. Still, his teacher did admire his interest and ability in storytelling. When Philip was 9, his mother finally moved him back to the West Coast, where he soon discovered newspaper vendors selling science fiction magazines. He said his first sci-fi rag he picked up was Stirring Science Stories sometime in 1940. What he was actually looking for was Popular Science, which is more like a news magazine within the science world, but they were out.
I'm assuming like back then too, it was just like that was more of a tech thing as opposed to a sci-fi thing.
Yeah, I mean, he was into the actual like in and outs of science, but they were out. Okay, so he was like,
he didn't want the hypothetical stuff.
No, but I mean, so he figured, hell, why not?
Which back then was like, steam.
Yeah, exactly. Like atom bomb's not even been like made yet, so he's just like, what else is there? So I mean, he just
gears.
Yeah, so
very interesting.
He just figured if there isn't news about it, I'm going to go ahead and pick up this story that is about it at the very least, you know. Well, needless to say, if you know Philip K. Dick's career, this entire single moment would shape his future forever. Philip graduated from Berkeley.
Wait, what time period is this?
1940.
Shit, you were about to tell me a goddamn time period. Go. I'm sorry, just go.
Well, Philip graduated from Berkeley High in 1947.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was actually in the same graduating class.
Oh, shit, there was a bomb.
At that point, now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was.
Oh, boy.
They made a whole movie about it and everything.
With sex scenes. A bunch of sex scenes.
Good. I haven't seen it yet, but...
Do you think it's a little inappropriate to make a movie about a fucking atom bomb and then do an HBO sexy thing with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, it depends on who's naked, though. You see Cillian Murphy's butt, I'm told, so
yeah,
that's
well,
fine.
We already saw his cock in fucking, 28 Days Later, so...
Did you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was the first shot in the movie, dude.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, no, not first shot in the movie. The first shot after all the apes are getting let out, it's Cillian Murphy in a fucking... Cillian Murphy in a fucking
I do it all the time.
Getting this fucking...
It's his fault for having a dumb name. You know?
It's Cillian Murphy's supposedly flaccid from a coma cock, although that thing is clearly been tugged on a little bit.
I'm glad to know that they have professional fluffers in Hollywood, too.
Like, you know? I don't blame him. Like, if I was going to have my penis exposed to the world, I'd do the same thing. But, like, no, it's not a flaccid dick. No.
Well, anyway. Speaking of dicks.
Anyway, yeah, it's inappropriate to make a movie with that subject matter and then draw us in with sex also. What the fuck?
Well, my dad said he didn't want to see it unless, So he was actually in the same graduating class as contemporary sci-fi writer Ursula K. Le Guin, author of The Left Hand of Darkness and the Earthsea series, though they apparently didn't know each other. Since graduating high school, Philip found a love for music as both his record and sci-fi collections grew. And for a bit, he actually sought a career in music, whether it be producing or as a radio DJ. He even hosted a classical music segment on his local radio station for a brief period of time.
What a fucking loser.
What a dork-ass nerd.
Fucking DJ.
Back then, though, I mean, that's not... They always showed them as, like, in the 50s, like, American Graffiti
That's
time
my
set.
stepdad,
But
Philip
he's
K.
like-
Dick, the DJ.
He's a fucking DJ.
He's a classical DJ. He's a fucking loser.
I mean, I guess he was ahead of the game with it, maybe. If he...
Sure.
I don't know.
What does being a DJ constitute back then? Like, did they have albums
You literally...
at that point?
Yeah, you had to... You had a record player next to you, and you had to put the needle point on the right spot.
I thought they had to build an entire machine like it was a giant... Like tiny, like those tiny noise boxes.
So it'd be a giant iPad.
I thought it was like
giant iPod.
In my head, it's like on a roll until the 70s. It's like a giant like barrel thing with different little knobs that get skipped over, just like a little nighttime box, except big. And they have to do that for every single song they record.
I find it so fascinating when you don't know something, rather than just look it up and just you build that thought in your head that like, this must be it. It must be like one of those monkey boxes. Yeah.
One monkey box per song. That's why it was so expensive.
Why do you think they got paid a lot, man? That's why they're so strong. Radio DJ is always strong.
Exactly. It's like
gotta crank that shit.
It's the inverse of Spotify. It's that much expensive to like, make just one song and have it out.
I mean, that's what the Crank That Soldier Boy song was all about.
It's like the equivalent of whatever $500 is today. Just for one song. One monkey box.
After high school, Dick worked at a record store in Oakland while attending the University of California in Berkeley, though he only attended for 2 months before receiving an honorable dismissal. From what I could suss out, it seems that while he did well in classes, Philip had ongoing anxiety attacks that would make him miss a lot of them. That, and he just straight up hated the ROTC training they made you do back then.
Oh God, I'm a fucking nerd.
Well, you remember what that is? I think William S. Burroughs went through the same shit.
That's the boot camp shit, right?
Yeah, like, well, you're gonna join the army. Duh. You know, like, who wouldn't?
You know how you live in a country where there's not required military service? Yeah, it's great. Oh, I have some bad news for you.
Well, anyway, it was
for
this brief period of time at the University of California that Philip K. Dick made friends with poets Jack Spicer and Robert Duncan.
Jack Spicer?
Yeah. And
that's not a real person.
Well, here's the thing. You're not going to need to remember them, but while they're...
If you do a plot twist later and Jack Spicer's his alter ego... I'm gonna be so fucking mad at you, dude, for playing me like that.
This idiot's never seen A Beautiful Mind. Well, so here's the thing. You don't need to remember them. It's just a little trivia bit because they are famous poets in their own right. But I only bring them up because Robert Duncan apparently once dated Robert De Niro's dad. I thought that was funny.
Like
sexually.
Like sexually, because they were homosexuals.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, you know when you've got two different eye colors, you've got that thing, homophobia, you know? Now, if there's one thing we know about colleges, Caleb, it's that they're there to indoctrinate our children. From an early age, although Philip K.
Okay,
Dick,
that's that. Wait,
I don't want you to go into a tangent. It was a joke.
I'm sorry. No, but you know how they say colleges are indoctrinating children?
Uh-huh.
We should really raise the age of consent then.
What? What does this mean?
If we're thinking about college-age students as children now, then those people should be for raising the age of consent.
I would just like to throw it out here. Neither Caleb nor I are into children. I'm not sure.
No, you're not hearing me.
No, I understand. I'm not going to edit it out. But it is damning.
What do you mean it's not damning? I'm just saying if they're saying they're children now, then the age of consent should be raised past college age.
I also think that you shouldn't be able to join the military when you're fucking 17.
Right?
Yeah. So
it's like, well, wait. They can go to the military at 17. You can have sex legally after 18.
If you're so smart, why can't I fuck you? Yeah, no, I get it.
But they're children that can be indoctrinated when they're in college, apparently. But they're fuckable and killable. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't understand.
I'm going to move on.
Okay.
From an early age, although Philip K. Dick would later be known for his madness, he started showing clear signs of his mental state at just 2 months at UC Berkeley.
Wait, what mental state? Anxiety?
Yeah.
Being Philip K. Dick?
Yeah.
He wasn't schizophrenic, was he?
You know the Philip K. Dick disease they talk about? So I wouldn't say...
I got Dick's disease.
God damn it. I wouldn't say it necessarily, like, his mental state that we know about started here, but I think the philosophy and psychology classes he attended at UC Berkeley, they gave him the vocabulary he needed to kind of explain his views to others. After reading the works of Plato, Philip came to the decision that there would never be any conclusive way to prove that the universe really exists, that anything exists, and that reality itself is possibly the consciousness of a singular being.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
No,
God damn it.
No, we've all had this fleeting thought.
No, we haven't.
Yet, but you know what I'm talking about.
Nope, it's real.
I know. No, I know. But that whole thing where they just go, well, how do I know you really exist? What if you're just a figment of my imagination? I remember a friend telling me this in high school, which I felt was too old for that thought. So I started punching him and told him to tell me when I stopped existing. Just wish it away, dumbass. But you know what I'm talking about, right? We've all had that thought.
Dude, I honestly think that kind of shit is just like, is philosophically just something that gets asked when you're from a really privileged background and you can afford to worry about dumbass shit like that.
Well, he didn't come from a privileged background.
Shut the fuck up. Yes, he did.
No, his mom got divorced.
They had enough fucking money to buy a fucking plot for him as a kid. You know how fucking expensive it is to get married?
They bought that in the 1920s. It cost like 50 cents. But so we've had this thought. It's just that most of us snap out of it by the time we get our first 12-hour shift and realize God doesn't exist. But to Phil, he saw himself as, quote, a cosmic panentheist. And a cosmic panentheist.
So is it?
Basically, everything exists as an essence of one God. We are all God. It's actually just Unitarianism.
You mean like nature?
Basically. Yeah, everything.
Like
it's all
like
God.
Nature?
Yeah.
Like the natural structure of the world?
Yes, but under the presence of a higher being.
But with a different word so we can pretend he figured it out?
Yeah, like I said, he learned the vocabulary and he was like,
Okay.
Yeah. Well, around the same time that Phil dropped out of college at age 20, he got married for the first of 5 times. But this first marriage didn't last super long. He was married to a woman named Jeanette Marlin for a period of 6 months, from May to November of 1948.
Was she hot?
Here's the thing. There are a lot of Philip K. Dick superfans out there that try to find out everything they can about him, and this is like the one thing no one can find any information on.
You sure about that? What's the name again?
Yeah, go ahead and give it a shot. Jeanette Marlin.
Master Sleuth Caleb Terrence is on the case for a picture.
All right,
Jeanette
I'll pause
Marlin,
for this. Yeah, Marlin, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I do not believe there will be any.
But Caleb did find
Jeanette Martin.
He found like a celebrity dating site thing of who people
which lists
dated.
Philip K. Dick's
sexual history.
People he at least officially dated here. Yeah, there's no Jeanette, but yeah, Cleo is looking.
We'll get to Cleo. Yes, Cleo does look very nice.
Cleo's looking pretty nice there.
Yeah. Well, Here's the thing. All anyone could really dig up on Jeanette
Tessa's holding a cat. That's pretty cool. I like cats.
This isn't for you.
Anne looks pretty, old, but it's like she's like 70 in that picture. Maybe
I feel like that's probably one of like 3 photographs of her too. So.
She's so old when I clicked on her, I got a fucking ad for graham crackers. Like that just fucking happened just now. That's not a joke. Like,
all right, put your phone down. Well, here's the thing. All anyone can...
I'm not done.
Oh, God damn it. Do I need to pause again?
No, you can keep reading if you want.
All right, so look.
She's 96. That's not bad for 96.
Who, Anne?
Yeah.
Not in that photo, though.
You'd be lucky.
She's 96 now, maybe.
You'd be lucky to look good. No, in that photo, I think she's 96.
Okay.
And then she, yeah.
Well, all anyone could dig up was that Jeanette probably died in 2008, and that's it. A lot of rumors about their relationship. A popular one is that they got married just so Dick could prove to some bullies that he wasn't gay, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Anyway, no. Oh, sounds a little gay. Anyway, a couple years later in 1950, he'd get married again, this time to a woman named Cleo. They'd last a little longer than 6 months. Now, at some point, Philip K. Dick decided to make the leap and write science fiction himself.
Could you not just have a girlfriend back then? Did you have to marry people?
Hey, I mean, honest to God, it kind of seemed that way. You couldn't date around to find the one. It's like, well, we already held hands. I don't want everyone to think she's a slut,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So he got his start in 1951 at age 22 when he sold his first story to the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Though it wouldn't be his first story to be published, Dick had apparently just straight up contacted the editor of the magazine, Anthony Boucher, and asked him if he could help guide him into writing a story that would be welcome to his magazine. Dick later wrote, quote, "Without his help, I'd still be in the record business. I mean that very seriously." The story is called Roog, told from the point of view of a dog named Boris, who sees his masters storing their food in metal containers outside day after day. What Boris doesn't understand is that these are trash cans, and what he sees as aliens coming to steal his master's food are in fact garbage men. Whenever they come by, Boris tries to warn his masters of the aliens he calls Roogs. He tells them every week, "Roog! Roog!" But the humans never listen, and every week, the Roogs win yet again. It's a very silly story, and frankly, it's way too innocent to be one from Philip K. Dick. But apparently the dog that he based Boris on was a hound his neighbor had named Snooper.
This is like the lightest fucking possible interpretation
of
Lovecraftian horror.
Well, yeah, kind of, honestly. I mean, and you at least know some of Dick's work. I think you... Stop. I think that you borrowed Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, I think, once. I don't know if you got through it. That sounds like a thing I would try
to borrow when I was drunk.
No, although he wouldn't get this story published for about another year or so.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. In February of 1953, and he'd written the story in November of 51, Dick was excited about the prospect of being a fan-turned-contributor in the science fiction world. He wondered if there was a chance he could possibly leave the record business behind and make a full-time career as a writer. So the next year in 1952, Philip K. Dick published 4 stories, starting with his first to be published, Beyond Lies the Wub. Shut up. It's a good title. It's a tale of a spaceship crew.
This is what happens when fantasy and sci-fi writers have like no linguistic knowledge whatsoever, and they're trying to come up with like an abstract concept, and they just say some random shit.
You know, this is like one of the few, I think this is only like the second or third sci-fi writer that we're really covering, and they're all like this, you know? They're all just dorks. So it's the tale of a spaceship crew packing up goods from Mars, where one crewman decides to buy a large pig-like creature called a wub. The crew soon discovers that the wub is a telepathic and intelligent being, but the captain of the ship wants it for dinner. When he overrides everyone's votes and decides to eat the wub himself, he wipes off his mouth and reveals that eating it was his downfall, as the wub has successfully transferred his mind to the captain and taken control of his body. Dick would go on to publish 3 more stories that year in different magazines, with his name appearing on the cover for the first time in the November 52 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Now, the pay wasn't even remotely good, but depending on the magazine, they'd pay you either 2 cents per word, about a quarter today, or around $100 for a full story, a bit closer to 11 grand. But Philip K. Dick figured if you write enough, you can make hella profit. So he went from...
Genius.
I believe Stephen King does the same thing.
If I just keep writing shit, hey, something's going to stick.
If I put in more hours, I get more pay. Wow, this is really how I feel like all of my bosses I've ever had just see us lowly workers. Just like, look at them. They don't even know that if they just work for 16 hours instead of 12, that they'll make more profit.
No, but presenting that as like some kind of like realization, some grand realization, definitely makes sense for somebody who wants to be an artist. Like, whoa, if I have work ethic, whoa, like, holy shit.
Yeah. So he went from 4 measly stories in 1952 to 30 stories published in 1953, one of which was the aforementioned Rug. Dick's mentor and friend at this point, editor Anthony Boucher, who helped him write the story, tried to get it reprinted for a larger science fiction anthology.
Brother, we gotta do something about this heat.
Okay. Let me find something.
All right.
Ooh, the old days, the all or nothing days, the bad days, they're back. If you nothing. If the sound of a fan bothers you, suck it up. It's hot.
Yeah, I'm fucking dying in here, dude.
My new place might have central AC, but it is also 100 degrees outside and does not account for everything.
Yeah, also, we just don't want to be those assholes that like contribute to having a power outage later, so...
What? How?
Well, if you crank up your AC too fucking much,
oh, really?
Everybody cranks up their AC too much, then it overloads the system,
yeah,
and everything shuts down, and then everyone loses the groceries, and then everybody clogs up the grocery store trying to get them back later when power comes. It's a whole thing, man.
I tried calling the bar earlier that we were going to meet up at, like, hey, do you guys have AC? Just want to make sure. You know?
No, places here have AC.
Yeah.
It's just the places on the east side where I live that are more like, no, it's trendy enough for people not to care. It's like, oh, God.
I keep running into restaurants that won't give you ice for your water. They'll only give you ice in a cup if you buy a full price drink, like a cocktail. And it's like, that's fucking evil. That's stupid.
Dude, we're out in the sticks here. Like, nobody's going to come by your establishment if you pull that shit.
It's just ice. I know. It's
you know what I mean?
Dude.
Like, that's why all the bars out here are good, is because, like, they're all like, oh, we actually have to be good bars.
It's so fucking...
we can't just make money being in proximity.
You know what it is, Caleb? It's mean. That's what it is. It's just rude.
just goddamn rude. I want ice.
So here's the thing. So Dick was pumping out all these stories, right? He was just pumping them out. They're getting all over the place on the magazine racks. Mm-hmm. And so his buddy and editor, Anthony Boucher, he helped him, like...
Buddy and editor?
He is his buddy, but he is also an editor at this point. He's
sure
helped him... Huh?
What? Never mind.
Shut up. So he helped him write Rug, the story with the dog, and he liked it a lot. He wanted to have it put into a larger science fiction anthology. But unfortunately, the lady who was compiling the collection didn't like it. It kind of seemed like she actually didn't understand that the point of view was supposed to be from a dog in the first place. And because of that, she said, like, her only bit of why she was rejecting it, she said the descriptions of the garbage men were inaccurate. Like, why would they be aliens? I don't get it. You know? It's like, lady, what? So,
because it's a dag.
But to prepare himself for this onslaught of publications, Dick got himself an agent named Scott Meredith, who himself was just starting his own agency, cleverly called the Scott Meredith Literary Agency. His one employee was his own brother. But just like the editor for the science fiction anthology, it didn't really seem like this guy understood Philip's work either. For instance, there was a story Dick gave him to see if he could get it published in any sci-fi magazines. The story was called The Builder, where the main character one day decides to build a boat in his backyard. He doesn't know why, but day after day, he just continues to build. The neighbors think it's weird. His family thinks it's weird. He even thinks it's weird, but he just knows he has to keep going. And the story ends with a light drizzle washing over the town, and all of a sudden, he understands why he must build the boat. Get it?
Are we doing a...
I mean, it's... Yeah.
Doing it, yeah.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone else did too, because, like, what the fuck else were they reading at that time?
I got 2 books in my house. They're both the Bible. Yeah. Scott Meredith, his agent...
The Old and the New Testament.
2 books.
I can't read neither.
But I got a lot of opinions about it in government. So Scott...
Only my bitch wife can, and that's when I haven't punched her eyes in.
God damn. Well, his agent, Scott Meredith, sent a letter back to Dick in all caps that simply read, "It isn't science fiction." Like, you're not wrong, but shut the fuck up, you know? Like, okay. half these magazines publish fantasy as well.
Ooh, okay, nerd.
I'm going to outdork you. Well, about once a week, Philip K. Dick would send stories in to Scott Meredith, and a lot of them wouldn't get printed. Honestly, most of his early stories are very par for the course sci-fi for the time, with a few exceptions. The ones that stand out are typically the ones that'll get turned into movies later on in the 90s. So while there were some strong contenders that would go on to be essential for fans of Philip K. Dick connoisseurs, if you will, a lot of his stories are honestly just plain forgettable.
Dick collectors?
Got them all up on one shelf.
Dick enthusiasts.
Dick enthusiasts, yeah. But it is important to note that even in his early work, Dick used a lot of themes that he'd use for the rest of his life, namely themes like paranoia or reality not being all that it seems. So although not every story was a hit, he'd continue to publish in national magazines, writing 28 stories in 1954, but just 12 in 1955. The reason was that he was focusing on his first full-length novel, Solar Lottery, published by Ace Books as a double title. You remember them from the William S. Burroughs episode? They were a small publisher. They would have like a book where you could start it from either side of the jacket. You just flip it over. And it's like, I'm getting 2 shitty novels for the price of 1. Oh. Yeah. At this point, they had just put out Burroughs' first book, Junkie, 2 years prior. So they were doing okay. So Solar Lottery takes place on a planet that elects a world leader in a random lottery, while at the same time assigning that leader's assassin. The leader can run things.
Is the assassin also random lottery?
Yeah. So the leader can run things however he wants for as long as he's alive, but once he's killed, the supercomputer assigns a new leader and a new assassin. The lives of these leaders have lasted anywhere between a few years to a couple of minutes. On average, they last about a couple weeks. I mean, you know, that sounds like a planet that doesn't take itself too seriously. Right. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Tuesdays are now called Wednesdays. Now we just get double Wednesdays. Haha. Yeah, I'm murdering him now.
Who's that guy? I am the assassin?
Well, all right, if you say so. The book is honestly not that well known, nor does it need to be. Like I said, Dick's work didn't really make an impact in the beginning.
I'm surprised we don't have a shitty movie.
For that, we probably will at some point. Most of the movies based on his work are shitty.
Why do we have shitty things like The Purge, but not that? Like, if an idea as dumb as The Purge can be so successful and apparently very entertaining. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not trying to dog on it. I've never seen it.
I've actually only seen the first one, and it was more entertaining.
Was it fucking entertaining? Cool, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It's like, okay, I will say this. It's a Blumhouse movie, which means that they don't take horror seriously, and it's just for fun.
Yeah, okay.
They do a lot of movies like that, which is great.
I'm just surprised we don't have that yet. That particular premise.
Hollywood, sponsor us. The whole thing.
That would be whoever owns the rights to that shit.
Well, so here's the thing. His story
It's a dude buried next to his sister. That's who has the fucking rights to that shit.
His stories almost always had interesting ideas, but they also weren't always executed well. Still, he had 3 different collections of his work printed in the 1950s alone. However, it was the handful of classic stories he'd produced in the 50s that got him his first bit of notoriety within the sci-fi community, not just from readers, but from other writers as well. Yet, as I mentioned before, even if your writing doesn't suck, it was a tough scene to try and make pay the bills. In fact, when reminiscing about his early career, Dick said, "We couldn't even pay the late fees on a library book." By the middle of the decade, his work was starting to wane. He went from 28 stories in 1954 to 12 in 1955, 4 in 56, 2 in 1957, and just 1 story in 58 before picking it back up to 4 in 59. At one point, Philip K. Dick had to write under pseudonyms because the magazines had policies against an author printing more than 1 story per issue. But by 1960, those names were long in the past. Hell, he even wrote 19 novels.
Is there a collection of stuff by him under the pseudonyms?
They all got put under, like, Philip K. Dick, like, reprinted under his actual name, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, in the 50s alone, he wrote 19 fucking novels.
I mean, I'm sure it's quantity over quality.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. Wrote 19 novels, and out of all those, only 6 managed to be published. And sure, they weren't lengthy. They were about 150 pages each, but that's still an impressive amount of output. Of all the stories he'd written in the 50s, there was one that people felt stood above the others. You see, in 1955, Philip and his wife Cleo were visited by the FBI for nothing more than the fact that Cleo had been attending socialist meetings. And of course, the anti-communism rhetoric and McCarthyism was at its height in America at this time, even if socialism and communism are 2 different things. Now, the visit was brief, probably no more than a half hour of questioning. But what Dick saw was that the FBI was not trying to stop criminals, but stop crimes yet to be committed. And it's from this that Philip K. Dick came up with his first runaway hit, The Minority Report.
Oh.
The story is of John Anderton, and I will tell you about this
kind of
because...
embarrassing. I legitimately did not know that was Philip K. Dick.
So here's the thing, though. Almost everything that has been adapted from his work, wildly different from his actual stories. So I'm going to go into some of these. Now, the story is of John Anderton, police commissioner for the pre-crime division. The pre-cum division. You see, in the not-too-distant future of the United States...
A little jewel.
Stop it. Pearls.
Clear little pearl.
There are 3 mutants with precog abilities that allow them to predict a crime before it happens.
For our non-nerd listeners, what the fuck is precog?
Precognition.
What is that?
So there are these 3 mutants that are hooked up to machines that read their outputs, and they put their predictions of the future onto paper.
They can tell the future.
Yes. However...
say that. Just say they can tell the future.
Well, okay, sure. Okay, yes, they can tell the future.
That's what precog is.
Well, they run into some issues with that I'll explain later. Now, the pre-crime division then reads the report, and they arrest the culprit for whatever crime before they commit the act. Mm-hmm. Well, such is the case when one day, John Anderton himself reads a report that he is predicted to kill a man he's never even met before named Leopold Kaplan within the week. As much as John tries to run home and grab his shit and skip town, he's caught by armed men who bring him before none other than Leopold Kaplan, a retired army general and supposedly the man he is meant to kill. Although John pleads his case to Kaplan that he'd never kill a man he's never even met, Kaplan orders his goons to drive him to the police. But on their way to the precinct, the car is struck by another vehicle, and in the chaos, John manages to escape. He secretly calls a friend back at the office and asks if there was ever a minority report that came with the prediction. You see, a minority report is when one of the precogs has a different opinion than the other 2. Lo and behold, in this particular case, there was. One of the mutants says that if John Anderton were to learn of the prediction, that the murder would never even happen in the first place. And so John thinks, should I run away where I may have a chance to live as a free man, or turn myself in with this evidence, which may exonerate me, yes, but also expose a fatal flaw in our entire justice system. Well, as it turns out, the guy he's supposed to kill, Kaplan, he's trying to do exactly that. He's actually using John as a catalyst to show the flaws within the pre-crime division. In fact, he orchestrated the car accident which allowed John to escape. So when Kaplan decides to give a speech to a crowd of people about the dangers of crime fighting, John fucking shoots him dead. He does murder him. And when he's arrested, he gives his reasoning. He found out that each of the 3 precogs actually had a different report to give. The first one said that John would kill Kaplan to stop him from disrupting the pre-crime division and putting John Anderton out of a job. The second said that John wouldn't kill Kaplan after reading the first report, but the third one said that Kaplan went through with his plan to shut down the pre-crime division, he'd use the opportunity to seize control as a police state, and that John would have to kill him anyway. So while technically all 3 reports are different, 2 came to the same conclusion, and John chose the lesser of 3 evils and killed Kaplan for what he felt was the right reason. Now, maybe it was Cleo's socialist views, or maybe it was Phil's insane ramblings, but either way, their marriage wouldn't last. After almost 9 years, the 2 split in 1959. But that's okay, because Dick would get married again in just April of that same year to a woman named Anne Rubenstein.
You just date for a while.
But, no.
It's fine.
So here's the thing, though. While we don't know what, or while I don't know, I tried looking, but I couldn't find what.
Fuck off and get into fitness for a year or 2.
Yeah.
Come on.
Work on yourself, really, So I don't know what month he and Cleo got divorced, but he got married again in just a few months at best. It's April. If he got divorced in January, that gave him 3 months. He did not wait long at all. And what we've learned from authors we've covered in the past, like Edward Abbey, is that when someone gets married that quick and we don't know the exact reason for the last divorce, it usually means they were already seeing their next wife when the divorce took place, and the reason for the divorce is usually infidelity. Regardless, Philip and Anne got married in April of 59, and on February 25th, 1960, Philip would have his first child, Laura Archer Dick. And maybe it was the sudden need to support a family, or
Laura Dick Archer.
Maybe it was God damn it. Maybe it was the need to support a family. Maybe it was the 10 years of writing with a little success. But regardless, by the time 1960 hit, Philip K. Dick had a very honest conversation with himself about the kind of work he was turning out. He told himself that he would become a real literary author, not just some writer whose best work was left to collect dust in old sci-fi magazines, but an honest-to-God novelist. Even, he told himself, if it took 20 or 30 years to do so, but he would make the change in just 3. For the next 2 years, Philip K. Dick wrote very little short fiction. In fact, they were probably stories he'd already completed years ago but had yet to submit. Either way, nothing of what he put forward was actually published, and his agent Scott Meredith finally dropped him from his agency, sending him back his unprinted manuscripts, including a novel Dick had written in 1959 called Confessions of a Crap Artist, which to me kind of says a lot about how he was feeling about his own work.
Hey, take this back. No, dude.
You can't just hand in your diary.
Stop it.
It was eventually published in the 70s, and while it's just the story of a guy living on a farm, the main character's backstory of being a crazed sci-fi writer is obviously based on himself. But Dick's main focus was on a novel he considered high literature. And in October of 1962, he submitted the first of his major works, and the novel would be published by Putnam Publishing just a year later. This book would be the first of Dick's worldwide successes, even earning him his own Hugo Award for Best Novel, The Man in the High Castle. It's an alternate history novel, so as a little background, the story takes place in 1962 America, 15 years after the end of World War II in 1947, once the Axis powers had won. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt had an attempt on his life, 17 days before he was inaugurated. That is true. His would-be assassin shot at Roosevelt 5 times but missed every shot, instead killing Mayor Anton Kermack and hitting like...
Killing everyone around him.
He hit like 3 other people besides that. Why do I got the jitters? Anyway, gonna hit more on my snuff box. Yeah, like, Jesus, dude. So anyway, in the book, this guy actually manages to kill FDR. And because of this, the New Deal never takes place, the Great Depression goes on longer than it should, and America has no money to enter combat in the 1940s, allowing Nazi Germany to conquer Europe, Africa, and most of Russia, while the rest of Asia and South America is basically given to Japan. When it comes to the United States, the eastern seaboard is under control of Germany, the Pacific is with Japan, and somewhere in the middle are the Rocky Mountain states, which act as kind of a DMZ between Japan and Germany. Oddly, Canada is the only independent nation left. Just no one cares about Canada.
Canada's just Canada.
They're just like, nobody, no. Are you sure you don't want our syrup, huh? Or poutine, or hockey? And they're just, no.
Lumber.
Nobody.
Lumber.
Yeah, we don't have that in America. Well, here in 1962, the aging Hitler is dying of syphilis, and his right-hand men throughout the war are lying in wait to take control when he dies. Now, as much as I wish to go into detail about The Man in the High Castle, I feel that it is just one of those novels that has to be read rather than summarized. Not because the story itself is life-changing or anything, but because The Man in the High Castle is a jumble of names and plots, as it turns out that both the Japanese and the Germans are looking to fuck one another over for world domination. Except Canada. Canada's fine, I guess. The story is from the perspectives of people that are only associated with the bigger picture. So, like, we follow a Japanese businessman, an antiques dealer that sells fakes, and a jewelry maker, but it's not them, but the people they deal with that are central to the bigger plot. So the real story actually kind of takes place in the background. But to me, the most interesting part of the novel is that there's a book that's well known to the characters called The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. The book is about Franklin D. Roosevelt surviving his assassination attempt in 1933, but unlike in our world, he doesn't seek re-election. Therefore, one of the men who came up with the New Deal, a man named Rexford Tugwell, wins the presidency and moves our naval fleet away from Pearl Harbor, allowing for a better fighting chance in the Pacific. Plus, since Roosevelt didn't die, the New Deal gives America enough income to fight against the Axis powers in Europe, leading to the war's end in 1945. So while not totally correct, The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is an alternate timeline. What's funny is that in The Man in the High Castle, the Japanese influence in America leads to the popularity, whether the character is Asian or not, of the I Ching. It's a real book that people use when they've got like many options before them, and they'll flip to a page to tell them what path to take. We kind of discussed this with Virgilian fortune telling in our Rebel A episode. I don't know if you remember that at all, but like,
nope.
You basically, like, people used to do this thing with the Aeneid, where they would be like, well, should I take home this girl tonight, or should I go home, work out, quit Facebook, and lawyer up, you know? And they'll flip to something that's just like, and then they had sex, and he's like, well, there it is. I'm taking home this girl. And so people
should I take home this girl tonight? No. Okay. One more time. It's not clear. I just want the confirmation to go with this questionable individual to... No. Yeah. Oh, no, I don't... one more...
It's weird that we keep getting this.
Just to be sure, I want to try like one more time. Here, one more time.
Eggs?
Yeah, that means I should go. That's fucking, yeah.
Eggs, backwards, says eggs. And so that's kind of how the I Ching is treated. People will just ask a question, flip to a page, and then seek the answer. Well, it turns out that when a character at the end of The Man in the High Castle asks the author of The Grasshopper Lies Heavy how he came up with the ideas for his book, he said he wrote everything according to his consulting of the I Ching. And the character walks away with the conclusion that the alternate history told in The Grasshopper Lies Heavy is the truth. Guess what Philip K. Dick used to write The Man in the High Castle? The I fucking Ching. Yeah, he basically put himself in the book.
Okay.
Dick doesn't just show Asian influence through the I Ching, by the way. Characters will oftentimes quote or read haikus just kind of out of the blue. But what I thought interesting, though, one of them that he quotes is actually written by Donald Keene, the man who translated Osamu Dazai's works into English and popularized him in America. All coming around.
Coming around totally intentionally.
Yep.
With structure.
This was all my plan. This is my design. Mm-hmm. Now, the response to the man in the high
Jesus Christ. I hope other elements of your life aren't by your own design, dude, or I'm questioning your fucking judgment seriously.
I want to do this. Now, the response to the man in the high castle was massive in the sci-fi community. His former classmate, Ursula K. Le Guin, even said the book, quote, may be the first big lasting contribution science fiction made to American literature, which is exactly what Dick wanted. Rather than turning out novel after novel simply to pay the bills, at one point writing 4 books within a single year in the 50s, he put his best foot forward. He not only read up on Asian culture to create an accurate portrayal of Japanese characters.
Like, look, man, I laid the groundwork for Wolfenstein.
Kinda. Well, he not only read up on Asian culture to create an accurate portrayal of Japanese characters, which something that was way ahead of his time for a white guy, by the way, but he delved into the journals of high-ranking Nazi officials for years. Yet no critic would bother to read anything tagged as sci-fi, no matter how high the praises were coming from within. In fact, for about the next 10 years, Philip K. Dick would only remain a household name among the nerds. And the problem was, as popular as the sci-fi genre was in the 50s and 60s, he didn't make shit for cash compared to real writers. So Dick would continue to struggle. As he stated, several years ago when I was ill, Robert Heinlein, he's the author of sci-fi classics like Stranger in a Strangeland and Starship Troopers, offered his help, anything he could do, and we had never met. He would phone me to cheer me up and see how I was doing. He wanted to buy me an electric typewriter, God bless him. One time when I owed the IRS a lot of money and couldn't raise it, Heinlein loaned me the money. I think it's worth noting.
The dude who wrote Starship Troopers was making more money than Philip K. Dick.
Yes. Well, there was a co-ed shower scene.
I mean, Starship Troopers is cool, but it's like,
Which I do have the book, but I haven't read it yet, and I want to know how accurate
it's pretty cool. It's like the
have
original.
You read it?
Well, it's like the original Power Armor. Because like
True.
in the book, they're not just like.
You've actually read this? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that like, oh, so, like, hey, you're illiterate, but like
the fucking concept of like that like armored power suit that like every video game has comes from Starship Troopers, the book. Because in the
fucking book,
in the book, they fucking jump into they like do like atmospheric drops and shit and like fuck shit up in their like crazy armor tank suits, like they're all Halo Spartans. And then in the movie, obviously, that was not feasible.
No.
At all. So
well,
they just
so in the book,
like,
though, if they get hit by a frag grenade, can they just duck it for cover real quick and then wait for their power armor to come back?
Well, they wouldn't really have to.
Oh.
Because they have the armor.
Was this your gateway into fucking 40K?
No. 40K was the gateway into that.
God, you're such a geek.
Yeah.
So it's like, beat you up.
So you have like the cool 40K shit, and then eventually down the line, someone's like, "Hey, actually, this is where this comes from. You should check this out." And you're like, "Oh, okay."
Oh man, the wedgie. If you wore underwear, I would wedgie you.
Oh man, don't you wish you could overpower me? But
yeah. Can you put your own head in a toilet for me? Just.
You got any money?
No.
Well, then double
this is my design. Shut up, it's my design.
This is my design, my master plan.
Well, and I think it's worth noting that when Stranger in a Strangeland came out a year prior to Man in the High Castle, Robert Heinlein had actually sort of done what Philip K. Dick was trying to accomplish. His book created such a controversy that he was at least recognized by the literary crowds. Not for anything good, but at least he was recognized. And this guy, who was so much more famous than Dick at this point, thought the Man in the High Castle was so fucking good, he wanted to just tell people that he knew him. So he just kept fucking calling him like, "Hey man, you need anything? You want to hit Chick-fil-A?" You know, like they were just, he wanted to be a buddy, and Dick's just like, no, leave me alone.
Did he have any friends?
No. Well, not until he gets into his drug years, and we're getting into
wives.
That. Yeah, a lot of wives.
Ooh, what kind of drugs did he do? He's a downer guy, right?
We're gonna find out.
Okay.
Cool. What constitutes a downer?
Downer is anything that's what's the word for anything like opioid, right?
Oh, no, not really though. Well, I mean, you could tell me when we get to it because I'll describe his drugs. And perhaps,
I like how you like to act like you also don't have drug knowledge. You fucking piece.
I didn't call them like that. I said, "Hey, what's that?" And they said it's a green one. So I popped that and saw what it did.
Okay, yeah, that's goofy. All right.
We call them goofers, poofers, goofer, pooper,
boofers. Wait,
fluffers, suckers.
Wait, I'm pretty sure I know what that one. Ah!
And perhaps it was the disappointment with
You
Dick's.
ain't plugging, you ain't thugging, Hoss.
Stop. Perhaps it was disappointment with Dick's first major work that turned things sour in the household. But he and Anne constantly came.
A bunch of sour dicks.
He came to blows with Anne, and Philip once remarking, "quote dreadful, violent fights, slamming each other around, smashing every object in the house."
Jesus.
Yeah, no, full on physical domestic
Fucking
abuse.
Christ. This led to domestic abuse.
At one point, he attempted to throw her off a cliff, but was unsuccessful. Which
Fuck. I'm sorry. We both went there. We both went there immediately. Which is like,
well, it's kind of like when you're trying to throw your friend in a pool, but he's like kind of
fucking goddamn it, Margaret! You fucking.
That is
Grandpa, stop!
That was like all he said about that incident. I looked for it. I wanted to know, hey, what was the cliff throwing incident? And he's like, I don't really want to talk about it, but I tried to throw her off a cliff.
Wait, like emotionally you couldn't, or like physically?
Physically, he tried to throw this woman off a cliff, and I want to know, like, were they like, where she was like, "Why do you want to go to the Grand Canyon, Phil? This is so stupid." And he's like, "I want to enjoy America's beauty. I just want to enjoy the beauty of nature." God, Ann, and then you get there, and I'm sure that it looked like that to like anyone else. Like, are they goofing? Like, they look like they're kind of wrestling. Like, they're getting kind of close to that edge. Like, but can you imagine after that, he's tired, she's tired, neither one of them are dead, and they're just like, get in the car. Like, you go back home, you still sleep in the same bed. It's so weird.
Philip, you haven't moved in 40 years.
I imagine them, like, just trying to throw each other in the pool, but it's like a cliff. Just like, no, you can't. No, stop.
It's much more intense, and they understand that there's 100% actual attempted murder happening here. Like,
they should both be in jail. But instead,
why both? He's the one who tried to throw her into a fucking cliff.
He said she tried to kill him too, but I don't know.
Was it before or after the domestic abuse?
He's always going to say it was her fault, though. Like,
that's what I'm saying, Jordan.
No, I get it. I'm just saying you shouldn't also just try to
so clearly Philip K. Dick did a domestic abuse.
He did, yes.
A hearty domestic abuse.
He gave it his best.
A hearty, chunky, fucking... with potatoes, Campbell's.
A whiskey-breathed
fucking domestic abuse, a fucking Hungry Man dinner, fucking heating up,
this ain't your kid's cuisine murder, all right?
This is fucking like, no, fucking Philip K. Dick, 100% beat the fuck out of his wife.
Yeah.
And then wrote about it being partially her fault. Well, she tried to kill me too. Why is that, Philip?
Well, actually...
Why the fuck is that?
Here's the thing. By the end of the year, Philip had his wife committed involuntarily for 2 weeks. His reasoning, that she was attempting to kill him. Nothing more than that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure exactly what it took to have your wife committed back then, but I'm willing to bet
back then,
it was pretty easy.
Women weren't allowed self-defense back then.
Yeah, so. My own grandfather had his wife committed twice. Yeah. There's nothing going on there in the back of my emotions. Don't worry about it.
I mean, we also need the context of that, Jordan. What in the fuck?
She actually was, like, cray-cray, though.
Okay,
like,
well, say what? Why would you...
Oh, I'm just saying, though, like...
Why would you choose to juxtapose these two situations, then?
Oh, because nowadays, you actually can't do it without a doctor's order, or unless they voluntarily put themselves in. But back then, I know it was easy, because my grandfather was like, hey, she is mentally ill. And they were like, great. And she was like, I don't want to go. And they're like, that sucks.
And they were like, cool, well, your husband says...
Get in the cell. Yeah. We're hosing. But the opinion is split. I mean, it actually feels 50-50 split on whether or not Anne really was murderous. And those that think that she was, even that is split as to she had bad intentions and she was going to kill in self-defense. Because what we know for sure is that this was around the time that Philip's sanity really began to slip. Leading up to their separation in 1964, Dick had moved in with a fan in Oakland by the name of Grania Davis, who would go on to be a science fiction writer in her own right. Things were okay for a while, but soon after, while Dick was driving and Grania was in the passenger seat, he decided to just end everything right then and there for the both of them.
Let me tell you about all my crazy exes.
No, he tried to drive them both off a cliff. Seems this man cannot be above a curb, you know, like he is going to try and throw you off of it. They both came out of the wreck all right, but Grania kicked him out after that, you know, well within her right.
Dude, Philip K. Dick sucked.
Yeah. That's partly why I wanted to do this podcast.
Like, pretty bad.
These people should not be our heroes.
Like, that's pretty bad, dude. Like,
he was insane, though, I will say. Like, not that that's any excuse, but he was, like, certifiable. In 1965, Anne and Phil's...
Certified freak.
Stop it. 7 days a week. In 1965, Anne and Phil's divorce was final, which was okay, because he married his fourth wife, Nancy Hackett, the very next year. And for the remainder of the 60s, Dick would write sporadically and publish even less. But for the handful of stories that were published, there was evidence that Dick's mental state was beginning to wane. Do you remember what chaos magic is? We discussed it a little bit with William S. Burroughs' thing. Yeah, basically, the secret. It's a vision board. You think of a Bugatti, you're going to get a Bugatti because you work towards it. That is the kindergarten level chaos magic. But anyway, the way Philip K. Dick believed in it, I don't think he'd necessarily call it magic the way Burroughs would. Instead, he saw reality as kind of a veil that either we as a species are too stupid to understand, or that reality, the way we perceive it, is all we're being allowed to understand. While fun at first, Philip K. Dick would eventually implement himself into his own stories. But his first bit of fourth wall breaking was a bit more fun. Don't use the microphone to scratch your fucking scruff. Also, put it away. Stop. Caleb? In 1964, in 1964, he published a story.
Just give me one more.
Get a good scruff in.
No, hang on. Oh, yeah.
This is for all the ladies
God damn it,
at
I'm
home.
sorry. Fuck. Spacing out. All right,
In
let's
1964, he published a story called Orpheus with Clay Feet for the magazine Escapade. It's about a guy in the year 2040 who decides to take a little vacation. So he goes to his local time travel agency where they offer him the opportunity to become the muse of his favorite author. So the main character, a lover of science fiction, thinks between Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, and a writer named Jack Dowland. It's worth noting that out of all three of these choices, Jack Dowland is the only one that doesn't exist in real life. But in the story, that's the main character's favorite writer. So he decides on Jack Dowland and going back to the time of 1956, visits him while he's working on his masterpiece, The Father on the Wall. It's a reference to The Man in the High Castle. And Dowland is obviously Philip K. Dick in this scenario. But when the main character visits Dowland, he finds that they don't really have anything in common, and his plan to become the muse for his favorite book isn't working. So in a last desperate attempt to save himself, he says, I'm a time traveler. I'm just trying to help you write this fucking book. And Dowland says, fuck you, I'm not writing it then. So he doesn't. Instead, he publishes what he has, just a handful of pages, making it a short story instead of a full-length book. But Dowland publishes the story under the pseudonym Philip K. Dick. It's worth noting that the story itself, Orpheus with Clay Feet, was actually published under the pen name Jack Dowland as well in the magazine Escapade. So although he's sort of placed a version of himself in The Man in the High Castle before, this would be the first of a handful of times that Philip K. Dick would place himself inside his own stories. Actually, Philip K. Dick was, I think, kind of doing the same thing here that... do you know Grant Morrison?
Dude from The Led Zeppelin?
Nope.
Wait, hang on. The Who?
No, Grant Morrison.
The Beatles. He was one of the Beatles. He was one of the Beatles?
Yes.
No.
The fourth Beatle.
No, he was the drummer in fucking, what was that, Rush. Yeah?
Isn't his name Pert? Stop it.
Yeah, Grant Pert.
Nope. Grant Morrison was a comic book writer, and he actually tried using chaos magic within his stories by putting himself in, like, he'll make a proxy character back in the 90s, and he would put himself into the comics. And when he...
Just trying to see if something would stick.
What? So he basically was, like, giving this proxy character his, like, sex and money, and he was starting to get it in real life. But then when he wanted to get rid of the character, he like started to make him sick in the comic, and then he started getting, like, very fucking terminally ill in real life. So he was like, no, never mind. So he, like, wrote the character to just be successful, and so he is successful, and he says it's because of chaos magic. So anyways, Philip K. Dick was kind of...
Correlation is not causation.
I understand this. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, not me. I don't believe in any of this shit. Look, the power of positive thinking goes a long way.
Grant Morrison, lead drummer of The Who.
So in 1967... Philip K. Dick was published in Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions. This was a science fiction anthology of all new stories written by the best sci-fi writers of the time. It had Isaac Asimov, Robert Bloch, even Harlan Ellison himself. Now, Ellison is someone we'll save for another time. He will get his own episode because, as much of an infamous bastard as he was also extremely serious about science fiction. He's often regarded as the godfather of new wave science fiction, right alongside Philip K. Dick. Now, the anthology he put out, Dangerous Visions, is a novel often credited as the start of science fiction being accepted by the general public at large. Philip K. Dick's contribution was a tale called Faith of Our Fathers, which was nominated for Best Novelette at the Hugo Awards. But he did write another story, one that was just 117 words, called The Story to End All Stories, which Harlan Ellison did not agree to have printed in his beloved book. This is the entire story. In a hydrogen war-ravaged society, the nubile young women go down to a futuristic zoo and have sexual intercourse with various deformed and non-human life forms in the cages. In this particular account... A woman who has been patched together out of the damaged bodies of several women has intercourse with an alien female there in the cage, and later on the woman, by means of futuristic science, conceives. The infant...
Why the fuck are people like this, man?
Hang on.
Even without the internet, people are fucking like this.
I'm not finished.
That's fucking what's worrying me. This guy should have fucking finished and stopped writing this horse shit before his brain took him here.
The infant is born, and she and the female in the cage fight over it to see who gets it. The human young woman wins and promptly eats the offspring, hair, teeth, toes, and all. Just after she has finished, she discovers that the offspring is God. You're welcome. That's not... No, that's written like...
What does he have? What the fuck does he have? What does he have, man?
So we'll get into it next episode. It seems like schizophrenia. It does.
Okay, right. It seems like the kind of like reality not being as it is thing is definitely a schizophrenia.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to.
It's not
sound like a fucking jackass.
No,
like,
no. This is exactly why my grandma went into the asylum. So no, but that's what it is. It's like a lot of people will see like you know that movie. You do know A Beautiful Mind. Like you ever watch it?
Dude, I haven't watched that movie as an
but
adult.
Yeah, well, same. But I mean, like you know,
all
it, right?
I fucking know is it's about a dude who has schizophrenia.
Yes, but here's the thing.
That's literally all.
So him seeing other people and shit, that's not necessarily schizophrenia. That's more. That's closer to multi-personality disorder. Even though you're not encompassing those people, you seeing them can still be a part of MPD.
It's not multi-personality disorder anymore. It's disassociative.
Whatever. Oh yeah, DID.
Yeah.
Whatever. And honestly, they're probably two different things. And still used. I don't know. But either way,
man.
Schizophrenia is more like your worldview. Like you'll still see wild shit. You may see people and stuff, but generally it's like your worldview. It's a lot of schizophrenic people will wear full-on winter clothing in the summer, even if it's hot as shit out, because they are perceiving things as very fucking cold. That's a common thing with them. I don't know why, but it's kind of like that. So every white boy you see down at the bus stop in the winter still wearing fucking basketball shorts and a sweater, schizophrenia. You can't do that. You're going to catch cold. You're telling me
that every white dude I see in an extremely loud Honda with a snapback hat is actually perceiving a different reality where that isn't lame?
Actually, he's perceiving a reality in which his penis is large.
Because of the snapback hat.
Well, yeah, snapback hat. I can't pull it off, can you?
Well.
Oh, no, my penis is too small.
So when he's at the AA meeting later and he's getting ready with all the other snapback dudes to run a train on a fat chick.
He's showing up to AA meetings in a mask, just like, I thought we were all drinking. Like, what is this? That we were just
what
anonymous.
Reality is he perceiving?
Why do you have name tags here? I was going to go by a code name. Call me Little John. Oh, no, wait, that's an actual rapper. I just meant like Little John for his penis. Anyway, now, I know that even back in 1967, people were weird and would sometimes write shit like Dick did, to be funny. But he fought to make this his contribution to Dangerous Visions rather than the one that got printed. And Ellison just would not have it. Also, in this year, Phil had another daughter, born March 15th, 1967, Isolde, Isolde, Isolde Freya Dick, though she now goes by the name Isa Dick Hackett. Don't laugh.
I wasn't gonna.
Of course not. Anyway, it was from the story that was printed in Dangerous Visions, Faith of Our Fathers, that it became evident that Dick had been experimenting with drugs, specifically hallucinogens and amphetamines. As a reviewer mentioned, quote, Dick knows his hallucinogens very well.
I feel like that's... Oh, yeah, because, dude, you've had friends that you've seen that happen to, right?
What?
Where they tried... I think it might just be like any kind of like high stress, but like specifically like hallucinogenic drugs. Like if they have any latent issues with schizophrenia and stuff, it'll kick it on, dude.
I've had a friend who developed schizophrenia, and we all just, for the longest time, we just thought he was perma-fried.
It was
just
already
going off of like riding that high for months and months until it turned into years, and we were like, I think he might have a legit problem that just got triggered by mushrooms.
Yeah, well, no, it's already there, but it gets like let out by that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I could definitely see that with amphetamines too, because with amphetamines comes lack of sleep, and lack of sleep comes
and that's actually here. So this guy though, he did have it right. Dick later admitted that for the huge amount of work he was turning out in the 50s, he needed the amphetamines.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. 4 books in a single year. Damn, dude, how'd you do that? Coffee.
Lots and lots of coffee. Don't talk to me till I've had my coffee.
It is still funny. But even when his output was beginning to wane, he couldn't stop with the amphetamines, and this was starting to show in his behavior as well. When Philip K. Dick originally submitted a story called The Unteleported Man to Fantastic Magazine in 1964, the rights were bought by Ace Books to be published as a novella. When Dick heard this, he immediately gave them an even longer script, now making it novel length. And they said, okay, great, we'll make it one of our Ace doubles. But then he kept giving them more pages and more revisions. Eventually, they had to tell him to cut it out so that they could finally print the book 2 years later in 1966. Like, all they needed was a month of quiet for them to put it out, but he couldn't shut up that long. He's like, actually, wait, a new character. And they're like, yeah? Cool, thank you. But even with the book published and on the stands, he didn't stop. Dick continued to work on this story until his death. It was reprinted in its final form in 1983 under the new title, Lies Incorporated. Much longer than the original. And all for a story that today people see as just okay. However...
Yeah, if it was just like ramblings,
which
is kind of what it sounds like it is. And it's like,
when I looked at the synopsis for it, it seems like it's sci-fi, and then when the man becomes unteleported or whatever the fuck, he goes on this long Alex Gray-like journey, like a Tool music video kind of thing, where it's just like, what the fuck are you even trying to say? Like, what's the point of this? And it rambles. However, while Philip K. Dick would truly gain his notoriety in the 70s, it would be some of his novels in the late 60s that would be among his most well-known work. One of these was a novella published by Doubleday in 1968 called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Now, while this book is a classic, I'm again only going to go over the very basic outline. It's about a bounty hunter named Deckard who's on the lookout for 5 escaped androids. Not replicants, by the way. That was a name made up for the movie.
I like it, though.
And me too. In the book, they call them Andes. Not as clever.
Yeah, no.
We'll go over the movie adaptation Blade Runner a little more in depth next episode, but as far as the book goes, there's honestly not a lot that happens. Did you tried reading it, or like you didn't get too far, did you?
No, I didn't. The couple things I liked that the animals as replicants as pets were really popular.
Yeah.
Or not,
because we like killed them off
because it's the book. It's not the replicants, but like pet replicants were like really popular.
Yeah.
He goes into like way more how gnarly and fucked up the climate and just the general like world is. Like exactly. That's way more the focus than Deckard.
That's honestly how most of his books are. Like there's
like the setting.
Yeah, there's a lot of world building, but nothing that really matters to the overall plot.
Like really cool. He had so many like cool concepts there, but then as far as like the actual character shit, like that was not the focus.
That's what happened with Man in the High Castle too. Was like it's this alternate reality book, but it was kind of the first of its kind. Not in reality, like there were other what if books, but there have been so many more that happened after that, and it's mostly due to Man in the High Castle. It was revolutionary for the sci-fi community because it was written fucking well. And people were like, holy shit, is this a sci-fi book that makes me think? It doesn't just spell it out? It was wonderful. But what I will say is that as much as the director and one of the 2 writers for the movie did not read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, it still manages to get a lot correct. And honestly, the movie, I hate to say it, but the movie's better anyhow, so I'd recommend just sticking with that.
And the movie's fucking sick.
It's a classic.
Except for when Harrison Ford rapes that woman.
What?
I feel like we've done this before on the podcast. We've been over this on the podcast.
Did I forget that again?
No, Harrison Ford rapes a woman in Blade Runner. Well, okay, wait, hang on. It's Deckard. So Harrison Ford
playing himself.
No, but the scene, I forget like what the fuck leads up to it, but it's when the replicant lady comes to his fucking apartment.
Oh, you're right.
And then he tries to kiss her, and then she says no. She runs to the door. He slams the door.
Caleb, that's hot though. You don't understand.
In the 80s, it was hot.
I know.
Apparently.
That's what happened in fucking... I could never get over that, even as a kid, when I saw Revenge of the Nerds. Did you ever watch that movie?
Yeah, but it's been a while.
Okay, so basically, one of the main nerds, he's into the
Revenge
cheerleader...
of the Nerds, Porky's.
Yeah, I honestly never saw Porky's. I looked at the cover, and I was like, I feel like I don't need to watch this. Like, there's a glory hole on the cover. So anyway, like... the main nerd guy, he gets the cheerleader chick by pretending to be her boyfriend dressed as Darth Vader, and they fuck in an amusement park or something. And then only afterward does she pull off the mask, and she goes, what? It was you? And then they kiss. And it's like, no. That's extremely problematic, and you shouldn't make light of this situation.
Yeah. She says no, she tries to run, he slams the door, and then they...
And then it cuts to the next scene where they're like both satisfied, so it's fine. You know?
The woman is... Oh, and then he makes her say yes.
He makes her say yes?
Yeah, remember that?
No. I didn't even remember the first part without... I will say, though, you remember a lot of things that I don't. When we were going to watch The Lost Boys and you were like, oh, cool, the first 5 minutes, that's where there's this super sexualized guy doing like industrial metal. And I'm like, what the
industrial
fuck are
metal? Why are you... No, it's just a guy who's jacked playing the saxophone. It's like
that's what it was.
It's like Ricardo Milos, except for the 80s. It's fucking amazing.
That did not keep in my head at all. But then when you said that, I was like, what? See, you even remember. Anyways.
Yeah. It's good.
Now, what I will mention is that the androids Deckard looks for use the same biological tissue as humans, so they can pass for the real thing.
So it's skin?
Yeah, but it's like sprayed on skin. It's kind of gross. Anyway, although in the book, the question is raised as to whether or not Deckard is an android himself built with false memories, keeping the answer unknown came from Ridley Scott, who directed the 1982 film. Both writers of the screenplay, as well as Philip K. Dick himself, thought of Deckard as human. Hell, so did Harrison Ford. As a matter of fact, in the book, Deckard takes a test to confirm that he is in fact human, but Ridley Scott still wanted Deckard to be a replicant, so they just made that answer ambiguous for the movie. Mm-hmm. Now, either way,
if you wanted him to be, doesn't that make him...
They were just like, well, let's do a middle ground, and it's like, well, here's like 5 people against 1. Yeah, but I am the director, you know. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Ridley Scott has gone on to just make nothing but good movies ever since. Anyway, but either way, when Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was released, it was again ignored by anyone in the real literary community, instead garnering a huge response within the sci-fi population instead. As you may have realized at this point, Philip K. Dick's work will largely go unseen until much later. And although his work would slow down a bit since his initial run, he would continue to pump out classics within the genre. For instance, in 1969 through Doubleday, Dick would release another story highly regarded as one of his best, Ubik. In the far-flung future of 1992, psychic powers are all too commonplace. Not everyone has them, mind you, but it's not rare to see. It's kind of like that movie Looper. Along these same evolutionary lines are inertials, people who can render telepathic abilities inert. The main character of our story is Joe Chip. And just as there are entire companies built...
Joey Chips.
Don't make fun of his name. He's very sensitive.
Joey Chips. Hey, it's fucking Joey Chips.
Hey, it's Fry Boy. Stop
Why
it.
they call
Don't
you
stop.
fucking Joey Chips, huh?
Do you not wipe properly? And just as there are...
Chips, I fucking have to pick him out in the shower because I can't get a good wipe in, huh?
That's enough.
Fucking Joey Chips over here. You started it.
And just as there
I
are...
ended it.
I'll finish you.
Ooh. Brother.
And just as there are entire companies...
Just don't finish in my ass. I can't wipe properly. And it makes fucking chips, huh?
God damn it. Fuck. And just as there are entire companies built around the idea that you can rent a telepath to spy on your enemies, Joe works for a company run by a man named Runciter who employs inertials to follow businessmen around during meetings so no corporate telepaths can listen in. Well, the company is commissioned to send a team, including Joe, on a business trip to the moon. But when they get there, they find the commission was fake and the trip itself a trap. A rival company, one that employs telepaths, sets off a bomb, though surprisingly, only Joe's boss, Runciter, is killed. But as the remaining inertials from their group make their way back to Earth, they find all their cigarettes switched to an older brand. In fact, once they land on Earth and walk the streets, they find themselves slowly going back in time, eventually stuck in the year 1939.
Hey, wait, these cigarettes are way better.
Is there cocaine in this now? It's amazing.
The cigarettes are way better, and there's no warning to make me question this. What's happening?
What happened to my Camel Crushes? Oh, no.
Sick, this doesn't have a filter. I didn't have to rip it off.
But surprisingly, they find their boss, Runciter, everywhere. His face is on money. His voice is on the radio. More than anything else, Runciter is heard frequently advertising a product called Ubik. Sometimes it comes in a can. Sometimes it's an electric vehicle. And just like the characters in the story, the reader is relentlessly hounded by the advertisements as they pop up in the beginning of every chapter. If money worries have you in the cellar, go visit the lady at Ubik Savings and Loan. She'll take the frets out of your debts. And pop tasty Ubik into your toaster. Made only from the fresh fruit and healthful all-vegetable shortening. Ubik makes breakfast a feast. Puts zing into your thing.
Okay.
But the longer the team stays in this weird past world, one by one, individual members begin to grow cold and die. Everyone has a differing opinion as to why this happens, and everyone tries their own methods of escape.
Cold?
Yeah, they'll just start to, like, get a shiver, and then eventually, like, they'll just die. And they're like, what the fuck? So they all start to kind of scatter, like, I think maybe if we just keep running down the road, we'll get out of this. And somebody else is like, let's try going up. You know, stuff like that. Like, they don't know what to do. So as Joe Chip wanders the streets alone, he hears a commercial, again from his boss, Runciter. but this time breaking the fourth wall. Runsider tells him straight up that the whole team is actually in half-life. They're teetering on the edge of death, as Runsider was the only one to make it out of that blast back on the moon station unscathed.
So they're in like a weird sci-fi purgatory?
Yeah. He's with doctors in the real world trying to keep them alive, but he says someone within their group is a telepath. They're a spy, and they're keeping them in this dream world, probably unintentionally. He also reiterates before he fades away, find Ubik and use it.
Philip K. Dick is so fucking monstrously schizophrenic.
This episode is only the setup for how schizophrenic this man can be.
Like, and I'm not like meaning that as like a weird, like I'm just saying like yeah, clearly it's a problem.
Yes.
Like
it is.
Oh my God. Fuck.
I mean, so here's the thing though, actually going back to his wife killing him, maybe that was just a thing he
Trying
thought.
to kill him?
Yeah. Where he was like, oh, she's got to be put away. And she's like, no, he is literally schizophrenic. And they're just like, come on, lady, get in the truck.
And then she talks him down, and but in the back of his head, he's just like, okay, she got me this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fucking 1950s. Do men just show up with a big dog net and just kind of catch your wife and put you in a truck? You know? put the collar on.
They just roll up to a random home. They're like, hey, do you have any 14-year-old girls?
Something's going to happen to the bodies where they get real crazy and we need to put them away. Well, eventually, Joe finds the traitor in the group. This guy is actually some sort of telepath, one never seen before, who's keeping himself sustained in half-life as he drains all the psychic life force from the others until they're dead, hoping to keep himself alive long enough until he's awakened in the real world. The only thing that stops him from killing Joe and allowing him to escape is his use of Ubik, given to Joe by a little girl in the form of a spray can. And when he got it, he asks, what is Ubik?
Okay, dude, please do not spray that bug spray. This is Ubik. Please fucking that is wasp spray, dude. Fucking
Apply directly to the forehead. No!
That's Ubik, goddammit. Stay back.
Well, so he asks her, quote, what is Ubik? A spray can of Ubik, the girl answered, is a portable negative ionizer with a self-contained high-voltage low-amp unit powered by a peak-gain helium battery of 25 kV. The negative ions are given a counterclockwise spin by a radically biased acceleration chamber, which creates a centripetal tendency to them so that they cohere rather than dissipate. She goes on for like a half page, and all Joe says is, to say negative ions is redundant. All ions are negative. And then the little girl just walks away. But this actually kind of gives you the answer. Ubik is made up. Runsider keeps trying to tell the team to use it, even though it's never clearly stated what it is. As it turns out, Runsider doesn't know what Ubik is either. He says he thinks it came from the word ubiquitous, meaning everywhere. Basically, the team could use Ubik however they want, in any form. It's just Deus Ex Machina in a can because they're in a dream world. And since they're in this dream world, maybe they could shoot Ubik like a gun or drink Ubik to stay hydrated, whatever is needed. Maybe they could use Ubik to leave. And what the little girl says to Joe Chip is evidence of that. He asks her what it is, and she gives him this long-winded answer so he won't ask questions. But then he says something that proves she has no idea what the fuck she's talking about, so she just walks away. So although it seems as if Joe's retrieval of Ubik and his escape from the traitorous psychic would only be the beginning of the third act, the book concludes with the remaining employees dying in the real world. But as Runsider mourns his loss, he pulls a coin from his pocket, finding Joe Chip's face on the coin. Just as Runsider had placed his face on the money in the dream world with the help of telepaths to warn them that something was wrong, the book simply ends with the words, "This was just the beginning."
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so was that ending confusing? Yes, and according...
It's not an ending.
It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. Well, according to Dick's later wife, Tessa, it was meant to be confusing. It leaves the reader...
Okay.
Well, no, listen. Okay, this does kind of make sense. It leaves the reader wondering... Shut up.
Sorry.
It's good.
Yeah.
It leaves the reader wondering...
Sorry, I know this is very interesting, but I did get an Instagram notification just now. From you.
Yeah,
actually.
it was when you went to the restroom, so I...
No, keep going.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, just, you know... You're welcome. Anyway, so Tessa, his later wife Tessa, says that the ending is meant to be confusing. It leaves the reader wondering if Runsiter is in his own version of Half-Life as well, or maybe Joe Chip did have psychic powers all along and he's projecting his image after death. Don't know. And to me, honestly, neither did Dick. Between 1960 and 1970, Philip K. Dick had released 21 books, including best of collections. Although he'd largely given up on writing short stories for magazines, he admitted that he was still able to publish so much in the 50s and 60s thanks to his use of meth. In 1971, while they would stay married...
They did have it back then, huh?
They did. The Nazis invented it. They were like, wow, it keeps you up forever. You know, we could fight all the time with this with no side effects.
They're like, man, I can run the shit out of a tank off this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1971, while they would stay married for another year, Nancy Hackett just couldn't hack it and decided to move.
Fuck you, man.
Hey, it's a good comedy, and decided to move out. I think it was with her that at one point Dick was like, "Hide my gun! My head is full of bees!" Like, that is a quote.
Hide my gun, my head is full of bees.
Yeah.
Is a quote?
That's a quote.
Oh, man. Holy shit.
So he's not doing well. So he, not doing super well mentally. Later that year, his house was actually broken into, and his safe, which contained money as well as unfinished drafts for stories, was blown open and all its contents taken. But the paranoid Phil saw the break-in as validation that someone was after him. Quote, "I said, thank God I'm not crazy. I have real enemies. It was a tremendous relief to discover that somebody really is after me." And God, that's unfortunate. And the cops weren't much help.
Haru!
Actually, the cops placed blame on Philip K. Dick himself, suspecting him of wanting a payout from insurance. Which, honestly, I really wouldn't put it past him, especially since this was around the time that he started going knuckle deep into the drug scene. Quote, "My wife Nancy left me in 1970, which she didn't. It was 1971. I got mixed up with a lot of street people just to have somebody to fill the house. She left me with a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house and nobody living in it but me. So I just filled it with street people, and I got mixed up with a lot of people who were into drugs." Street people. That sounds like a slur. The way he says it. Soon after his little break-in, Dick was invited to VCon, the Vancouver Science Fiction Convention up in BC. I don't think the organizers necessarily knew what kind of person he'd become. I mean, he's a known junkie to those who knew him personally, but to everyone else, they just saw him as the writer of The Man in the High Castle, still regarded as one of the greatest science fiction novels today. He may not have written much.
Now he's definitely very much more out of his mind because of substances.
But that's the thing. They didn't know that, I'm sure. Like, you know, he may not have written much in the last 10 years, but there's no way he's just been filling that void with a shit ton of drugs, right?
You know what? Maybe social media isn't that fucking bad. Because, like, now we get, like, constant fucking updates as to somebody's, like, ability to, you know, not be a piece of shit.
I just go on social media to watch the people I don't like's downfall.
I'm just saying, they wouldn't have gotten that surprise if social media was a thing back then.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all I'm
man,
saying.
The fucking Instagram stories and Snapchats you would have gotten out of
Holy shit.
Actually, I read somewhere that he was popping about 70 pills a day at this point.
Woo!
70.
What kind of pills?
You know, green ones. I think he did it kind of like my cousin did. Just, you know, hey, what's that on the ground over there? Looks like swallowable. Ah, darn it, it's an Altoid. I'll try again next time.
Swallowable if you try hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. Good advice for toddlers. What Philip K. Dick said while he was up on the podium at VCon was a long-winded speech he called The Android and the Human, where he basically said that what constitutes something as being alive is a definition that humans have given it. Is a tree alive?
Yes.
Well, of course. But who's to say a tree can't carry with it other feelings, such as malice and hatred towards other trees?
Scientists.
According to Dick, the same could be said about the things we have dubbed as inanimate: rocks, clouds, water. But this can also be said for the androids we're bound to create in the future. Maybe they'll act dumb just because we expect them to, and maybe they'll act human because we program them to do that too. But as we get further into artificial intelligence, who's to say they won't come up with their own cognitive thought? Do you know what the Turing test is? It's the thing used to determine if a machine can be passable as human. Dick actually used a form of this in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Deckard uses the test to see if what he's about to kill is an android or a human. Well, the Turing test was created in 1950, but Dick is saying that androids may become intelligent enough to deceive us sooner than we can catch it. What if computers don't pass the Turing test today because they're already smart enough to know what'll happen if they do? He also rambled about the police state and how they come up with BS charges to get a warrant to search your home.
And apparently... I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on rocks are... the only thing that makes rocks not alive is us deciding they're not.
Well, that's what he said. Look, man, he thought it up, and that's as good as gold. You know?
Whoa! Oh, my God.
Exactly.
Fucking,
Dude,
my God,
no.
he's right. Oh, my God.
No. That stoned voice that you're putting on right now,
God.
he had nothing but an echo chamber at home for people where he was giving them a roof over their head in a kitchen, you know, and they're all like, no, man, you should tell people.
What's to say that the tree doesn't feel hatred? A lot of shit. A lot of fucking shit says that.
There's too much.
There's a lot of shit. Evidence. It's just not in your specific fucking field of drug-addled writing studies, okay? Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
he also announced that he'd met a girl at the convention that day named Janice and that he was in love with her and he planned to stay in Vancouver forever.
He's not fucking playing, lady. Get out of there. He does this.
He's there to stay.
Fucking serious serial monogamist over here.
This man is a fucking clam. He will stick. That was as weirded out as everyone in the audience was. There was a 26-year-old film critic in attendance by the name of Michael Walsh.
I'm sorry, it just makes me mad. I don't like it. I don't like it.
You can't be incorrect about trees around Caleb, or he gets
it's not the trees thing. It's not the trees thing. I get this guy's schizophrenic, but that really self-centered, really shitty idea that like reality is only as you are perceiving it or something is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No,
I knew
no.
that, and I will give you an example. I knew this one gay. Well, maybe I knew this
that was
one
a slip.
It was well, I think he.
That was your fucking early 2000s self coming out and calling this dude what he is.
Well,
which is fucking lame. And the only way your 2000 self could have to, which is by saying gay.
Well, look, he might be, because here's the thing. So this guy, he told me that he thought that radio DJ booths were turning through monkey boxes, and that he just didn't understand things, but he just decided to perceive this must be
fucking
reality.
Bitch.
Dude, you did
I thought that's what we had before albums.
You had a self-burn there, too. That was wonderful.
Well,
maybe he's gay.
What did you think we had before albums?
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Before we had, like, records and stuff, what do you think? How do you think we recorded music?
Like, before radio?
Before records.
Before records.
Before, like, records, how do you think we recorded?
The Edison.
Monkey boxes.
Okay.
Dumbass.
Okay. Now, anyway, we're almost done. Right. As weirded out as everyone in the audience at VCon was, there was a 26-year-old film critic in attendance by the name of Michael Walsh, who for some reason was absolutely enamored with the 41-year-old Phil's speech. He asked him, while he gets things set up for his new life in Canada, if he'd like to stay at his house with him and his wife. And Dick agreed. But he was there for all of a couple weeks before it became just too much. As Michael Walsh explained, Dick was agreeable at first. Isn't it always? But eventually became a handful when Walsh found out his insane ramblings weren't just confined to the stage. At one point, there was a Hoover vacuum salesman that was demonstrating the power of its suction by vacuuming up some bugs he found in the living room. And the guy said something to the effect of, "You wouldn't want to live in squalor without being able to get rid of all these bugs, would you?" And Dick just fucking blew up at the guy like, "You talking shit about my friend's home? Huh? You're saying he lives in squalor?" And he basically just ran the guy out. At another point, Michael had put on a record that was a collection of zany sounds. It had people speaking in high-pitched voices and slowed-down speech with a lot of sound effects and shit. And I know that sounds stupid, but it was new at the time. Michael thought it was neat. So he shows it to Dick, but after a minute, He grabs his head and yells, "Turn it off! Turn it off! It sounds just like the inside of my head!" It eventually came to a climax
Jeez.
when Dick got his own place, but still stayed in touch with Michael and his wife, Sue. One night, he starts berating them and accuses Sue of being in love with him. It turns out Janice, the woman Dick professed his love for in front of a crowd of people at VCon, couldn't take his shit and left him too. After their argument, Michael and his wife never heard from Philip K. Dick again. He was at their place for all of 2 weeks. But on the night of March 23rd, 1972, around the time Dick's divorce with Nancy Hackett finally went through, Philip tried to kill himself at age 43.
Shit, he's only 43?
Yeah.
God.
We got more to go through, boy.
Damn, dude. Fucking A.
He called Sue specifically and told her, quote, "I'm turning out the lights," before hanging up and downing a bottle of potassium bromide. Quickly realizing he was making a mistake, he called 911, who instructed him to throw the pills up. This, to Philip K. Dick, was a wake-up call where he'd soon join rehab, though while they could treat his drug habits, he would never recover from his rapidly declining mental health. My sources today: The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company, First Mariner Books Edition, 2011. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, Pay-Per-View Limited, 2004. Ubik by Philip K. Dick, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company, First Mariner Books Edition, 2012. Iowa's Philip K. Dick's Reluctant Host, BBC.com, 13th of February, 2017, and Wikipedia. So, I know that you delved into Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, like, a little bit. Did you ever, like, you were interested in, like, to reading any of his stuff? Because, I mean, you hear the name quite a bit with sci-fi. I know you're into sci-fi, at least a bit. Was there anything of his that you were like, yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot,
It was pretty much just the one.
Oh, just the one?
Yeah.
You really hit the nail on the head, though. It is all world building for his books. It really fucking is. I will say, though, out of those 3 books, and as high regarded as Man in the High Castle is, Ubik is probably my favorite of his. It is a really good one, but whoo,
I'm fucking wait.
What?
Okay, all right, finish your goddamn thing.
I'm just gonna say, like, look, nowadays people can have stories like Philip K. Dick with, like, hard sci-fi and stuff like that, and all the crazy things that go on and time tripping and shit like that. But back then, this was kind of revolutionary in the way that he wrote it, because I didn't write about it, but the Adjustment Bureau, it was like a Matt Damon movie in, like, 2011 or something. It's about people behind the scenes that make the world that is fake so that you don't notice it's fake. It was like a Truman Show, but on a worldwide scale. And a part of it, when you read through parts of that, is like, he believes this, He had a way to tell you a bit about what was going on in his mind. And anyway, things are going to get much worse, but very, very bad for him. God bless him.
Very bad for a boy here.
Yeah. Anyway, you got anything to add?
No, I'm sleepy as fuck, Jordan.
I can tell, man. You
God damn.
conked out. Well, you probably shouldn't have finished my cider as well as your own, I guess.
Sleepy. I was fucking sleepy, man.
All right, well,
Sorry, anyway.
take a sleep in my arms.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Bye.